Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that are happening right now. And we just wanted to bounce some ideas off of our chest and capture your ear, share our thoughts. And what we're talking about really is these are emotional times. 2020 has been a whirlwind of crazy events that we have kind of accepted as normal, right? There's COVID, the economy, civil unrest, the election. There's so many things that have people so emotionally charged and so emotionally riled up. We are not going to sit here and pretend that we have the answer to any of those problems. We do recognize that your emotions need to be expressed, heard, and felt, and discussed. If you want to chat with us about things and we can talk together and have a civil, exchange in civil discourse, we'd be happy to. Send us an email, techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com. But I digress. What we're really talking about today is how the emotions that you have, you should give it your best shot to not let it spill over into how you invest. You should definitely recognize them, you should feel them, but investing shouldn't be a way for you to express your frustrations, your anger, or anything like that, because that's not intelligent investing. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. We're seeing a lot of really bad behavior and dysfunctional behavior, I guess is the way I would describe it, especially on social media. I've seen people who are threatening to unfriend or no longer be friends with people because they have a different political opinion than them and things like that. Boy, I really hate to see that because that's a friendship potentially in trouble right there. Relationships are super important. I think that's, as investors, one of our most important resources is relationships with other people. And what's going on there, people are letting their emotions kind of get the best of them, because if they were to step back for just a minute, calm down, let that whatever they're feeling there dissipate a little bit, they would probably act a different way. They probably, if they could think about one person who they truly like that has that belief that they're so mad at right now, and they would probably react differently and think, well, I wouldn't want to lose that person as a friend because they disagree with me on something. Then that's kind of what we're talking about. And to relate it to investing, anytime you let your emotions kind of get the best of you, you're at risk of making a bad decision. So that's one of the things that we wanted to hit on, is really to take a moment to process what's going on and never act out of that emotion when you're making a financial decision.
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything that you've said. When it comes to emotionally investing, investing with emotions, the good thing about being in real estate or buying assets in the real estate niche is that it's harder to be impulsive. With stocks, for example, you could sell your entire portfolio with a phone call. You could sell it with the click of a button if you're managing it yourself, because you were upset or frustrated, or you saw something that just rubbed you the wrong way, or you get a tip and you're emotionally charged, but you may have misread it. My point is, you can, with that type of portfolio, you can be really impulsive if you let your emotions get the better of you. But for a single family, a multifamily, those would take a little bit of time to sell. Enough time for you to at least pause and say, okay, is this really a wise decision? And then you could go back to your numbers, because math is not, there are no emotions in math. You follow the math, and math will tell you what to do. Does it make sense to sell right now? Does it make sense to buy right now? Based off of the numbers, that's how you should definitely be investing. And then there going to be policy changes. We're not experts in policy at all, any way, shape, or form. If you have any questions about that, we highly recommend you talk to your CPA. And if your CPA doesn't know, find a CPA that does, with regards to things like taxing, or when it comes to eviction laws. Will those change? Nobody really knows. There's still moratoriums as of for evictions and foreclosures as of the recording of this podcast on November 19th, 2020. Will that change moving forward? I don't know, right? That's where the power of having those relationships of a local attorney are huge and critical for your investing success.
Yeah, a lot of what we're talking about here is emotional intelligence. There was a great book called Emotional Intelligence by, I believe, Daniel Goleman was the author. We'll put that in the show notes to be sure we get his name spelled correctly there. But good book on helping you kind of identify and understand what your feelings are, how you can kind of control them and use them to your benefit. The emotions that you feel are healthy, it's just really important not to make important decisions like financial decisions when you're experiencing them. It's important to learn how to recognize that you're experiencing emotions and just taking a little pause before you actually make the decision itself. Like Kevin said, numbers are what you should be using to make your financial decisions when you're deciding on whether or not to buy a deal. It's so easy to get wrapped up in how much you like the property or what it could do for you. And it's very important that you stick to your numbers. Do not fudge them to make the deal work. Don't do anything like that. It's going to lead to some problems later on down the road.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about controlling the things you can control, right? For the things that we talked about, the economy, we really can't control that. COVID, we can all do our part to kind of mitigate the spread. Listen to the experts. The civil unrest, that's a little bit harder as well. Again, we don't have these answers, but focusing on the things that you can control will also help you kind of feel better. That's what we talk about with investing as well. You can run all the numbers and there is still the risk that something could go awry. But then you have to look at that as a lesson like, well, I did everything right. It just didn't kind of pan out in my favor or something unexpected happens. That absolutely happens. If you, let's say, for example, for things you can control. If you bought a single family property with such thin margins because you thought you could make the numbers work, or as Adam was saying, you fudge the numbers just so that, excuse me, you buy with enough of a margin so thin that you could skate on ice kind of thing. And then something happens and you have to sell it and take it as a loss. You didn't really buy right there, right? You bought for whatever reason. Maybe you read an article, this is the new place to buy, or somebody told you something and you didn't really understand or didn't really do the numbers. So you kind of took those actions and mishandled it because of that emotional drive, if you will. So that's just an example. Being wise about what you're going to do, using your emotional intelligence to recognize that your financial intelligence and your financial success, there's a lot of it that is predicated on how well you can control your emotions.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'd like to say is be sure to be looking for opportunities no matter what the situation is. So I've also heard and seen a lot of people making comments about, well, if um, Biden gets elected, then we're going to have, these new taxes or these new laws or these new regulations or whatever it is. And I've heard other people, saying similar things about Trump and the decisions or policies he would make if he stays the president. Regardless of where you fall on that and what you're worried about, I would encourage you to look for the opportunity in whatever situation we find ourselves in, whatever environment we're in. Look for opportunities because they're going to be there no matter what happens. I mean, no matter who's the president, there are going to be opportunities one way or the other. And the trick is to kind of find those. And as investors, that's what we do, right? We're creative problem solvers. And so that's kind of something I'd like to leave you with. If you want to talk about any of this, if you'd like to reach out to me and Kevin and, as he said, bounce ideas, or you have some ideas you'd like to share, or if you have feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com. Always check out our website, tgwipodcast.com, and we really love hearing from our listeners. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.